I don't like the idea of feeling like you can't ask a question or guide someone in an area you are struggling in. Just because you aren't perfect doesn't mean you can't give advice in an area you're struggling in. So here's I think this is a different way to look at it, Fred. Um, it may not be necessarily advice that I could give if I'm struggling in the same area, but more so it's like let's grow in this together, right? So instead of looking at it with the perspective of I have something to lend to you that will help you in something that we're both struggling in. More so, let's collaborate together in order to deal with the struggle we're having and overcome it together. If we're struggling in the same area, I don't think there's much I could lend you. If I'm in math class and I don't get, let's say, the Pythagorean theorem, if I don't get that concept in math class and somebody else expresses that they're struggling in that same concept, I don't think I'm in a position to give them advice or help or tutor them or give them any kind of guidance on how to deal with solving the Pythagorean theorem in a way that's efficient and helps them pass the subject, because I'm struggling in that too. But what I can do is be like, hey, so like, let's work together, because there could be something that you understand that I don't. And there could be something that I understand that you don't, that actually could help us both in dealing with this subject and then passing the class. There's a piece of information that I may be missing that you have, and there might be a piece of information that you're missing that I have, and we can come together and deal with that. But I think to be in a position where I'm like, hey, like, I think I could help you with this, but yet I'm struggling in that too. I'm not so sure if that's the perspective that I think would be beneficial in the long run, if that's what you're saying. But then you also have to think about this too, even in a deeper context. Like, it could definitely become contradictory. For instance, if somebody says, hey, I think you should wait till marriage to have, right? Like, I believe in that. I think you should do that. But yet I'm like in somebody else's bed every other weekend, right? And I'm not married. Like, even though I could give that advice, if you were able to get a peek into my life to see how I really live, you would see how that advice doesn't really hold weight. You're going to look at that and be like, what are you talking? Didn't you tell me and encourage me to like wait till marriage? So like, but you're doing this. So like, which one is it? Right. You're kind of confused. So I actually just did a reaction video to Ruslan. He does this thing where he breaks down the levels of knowledge. There's explicit knowledge, implicit knowledge, and tacit knowledge. So explicit knowledge is all in the head. It's the studies, it's the research, it's what you know, it's just head knowledge, right? Information. Then you have implicit knowledge, which is a step further than knowledge or studies. You're actually living it out, right? You're practicing that principle. It's wisdom, knowledge that's applied, explicit knowledge that's applied. Then you have tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is the deepest level. It's intimate. So there's things that what's understood doesn't have to be explained, right? There's certain things that you have, or a connection that you may have with somebody, or information, or just knowing someone on an intimate level, where you don't even have to keep mentioning like your role, their role. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. Things are just understood. There's nothing that has to be said, right? So for this case and the example that you're giving, it would be an informational knowledge that you could give if you're saying, hey, yeah, you should start on Monday, even though there are times that I don't start on Monday, I start on a different time, right? I think that would fall under like explicit knowledge, because you understand, you grasp, hey, this is beneficial, right? But if you're not consistently practicing that in other areas of your life, again, if you're going deeper, like the analogy, right, then it's only informational. And at that point, it doesn't even seem believable, especially if somebody gets a peek into your life and sees that you're moving the opposite direction than the advice you're giving. So it's always important to live out what you're sharing with others, because that shows congruency, consistency, and allows what you're sharing to hold weight. So that's on the deeper end, but I definitely think I'm hearing you correctly. And correct me if I'm wrong, Fred. I think I'm hearing you correctly when you're saying, hey, like, yeah, I don't think it's fair to call somebody a hypocrite if like if I encourage you to start Monday, but I don't start on Monday all the time. I start on Tuesday. I start on Wednesday. I think in that specific example, you're right. But I think if you go deeper and you analyze deeper places in your life where you would try to apply that same idea, for example, the analogy, that I don't think is where no longer seems congruent, and it can become confusing. And then it's like, okay, are we like a walking contradiction or what? Right. And so I think there are some cases where that could be applied, and then other cases where it's like, I don't know. But that's a thought, because it's almost the same thing like in scripture, right? Get the log out of your eye before you try to focus getting the speck out of someone else's. Right. So it's hard for me to give service and help and advice to somebody that I'm struggling in myself. The whole concept of that is, hey, I need to make sure that like I'm okay. I'm overcoming. I'm no longer dealing with certain aspects of that. I've learned lessons. I've overcome them. I'm applying it in my life actively to be able to actually give you some help and guidance in that area. But if I'm struggling in pornography and I'm telling you to stop being on pornography, then I don't think that necessarily makes sense, right? I think that's it. A smoker telling you not. Yeah. Okay. Good. I like to think of a smoker telling you don't smoke, even though they are stuck doing it. They recognize it isn't good and want you not to fall into the same pitfall. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And see how at that point though, right? Like even in his own life, he's struggling with that. It would only fall under that explicit knowledge tab because he's not even living it. But that doesn't mean that the information he's sharing is not valuable because he's not living it. It just can present something confusing because it's like, well, you're telling me one thing, but you're not doing it. So like, don't get mad at me if I don't do the same thing. And your life is an example that I'm looking to figure out and navigate things. So it just keeps us on our toes to be able to be like, okay, now I need to be able to practice what I preach. And so, no, that's good stuff, Fred. I like that. That's a good thought. Hey, listen, if you stuck to the end of this from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you want to hear more of these kinds of conversations in this format, please check the description below. There you will find a link to sign up for a Maverick membership. This is where the Truth Project sessions go down every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, where you can be a part of conversations just like the one I shared in this video. Your worldview is welcome, no matter what worldview you come from, and we're all there pursuing one goal: truth. Check the link in the description, sign up, 3 days for free. After that, it's $9.99 a month, but you'll get your money's worth and then some. I'll see you over there, and until next time, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Peace.